I think it ought to go in public content.
It's Dan, but another Dan, not him, looking in from the outside.
Conan O'Brien is.
Oh, geez.
Conan O'Brien. Okay.
Are we ready?
You bet.
Okay. Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yep.
Okay, consent agenda recommended action is approval of the following items which are included in the consent agenda. 4A, meeting minutes. 6A, reorganizational meeting date change. 6B, resolution for the disposal of personal property. 6C, nomination of the NISBA Area 6 Director. 6D, donation acceptance. 6E, donation acceptance. 6F, donation acceptance. And 6G, special education. I have a motion to accept this recommendation.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Joan. Second, Liam. Any discussion?
Yes. Can we pull out the reorganizational meeting date change or talk about it before we vote on it?
What's your preference?
I'd like to talk about it. I know that at the last meeting, Daniel said he wasn't going to be there. Is it better to leave it where it is? For the 5th, if he can make it for that date? Or was he not going to make that date either?
I can make the Wednesday work
Okay.
just this once. Don't make a habit of it.
When's the last time you can have the reorganization meeting? Well, how late can you put through the reorganization meeting?
It's, yeah, is it 10 days after?
I think it's the start of the school year, I believe so.
No, not the
No, I
start.
think
Well,
it's within,
July.
It's so many, it has to be in
I thought it was
July.
10 days.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
But isn't that when the official school date starts, is July 1st?
yes.
yes,
so it really has to still happen that same week before
Right.
July.
Because you can't have an old board with a new school year. So.
Mm.
Is that,
My hope was to just be able to have everybody at the meeting,
okay,
not have somebody absent for it. So,
That won't be difficult. I can work my schedule around that.
okay.
I guess
any
not.
other exceptions? Everybody,
You don't need an exception now then, right?
No,
okay? All right, I'll call for a vote, please. Is Colleen joining us?
mean, yes, I don't know why
She's
not.
not here yet.
I'm not seeing anything.
You're not seeing it?
I
don't see it either. All right, how about if we all
How about
vote?
if we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
all right.
The old fashioned.
Opposed? Any abstentions? So the motion passes 6 yes, 0 no. For the good of the cause? Anything?
No, nobody's on Zoom and, nobody's on email.
Okay. Reports to the board. The budget performance report. Dana?
First document is the monthly reports end of May. See total revenue unfavorable at this point by $87,000. Expenditures are favorable by $267,000 for the month of May. And then year to date, we're still sitting at about 94.4% of our revenue compared to 98.8% last year. Expenditures 77% versus 83%. Overall, we're still trending pretty well in terms of we're not spending more than what we have taken in thus far. That's always a good sign that the revenue that we have brought in is actually covering all of our expenses. Looking at it, the projected is a little over $20.4 million in revenue and total expenditures 19.759. And those are actually going to, those are fairly close to where it's going to be for projection. I shared with you as well appropriations documents and revenue documents, and they were added this morning. So I apologize for the lateness, but I really wanted the most up-to-date information to kind of go with this. Usually we're always looking a month behind in terms of these reports, but I wanted to share with you kind of where we are as of this morning for expenditures versus revenue, kind of that up to date because we are near the end. I really wanted to wait until today to do it because our last payroll was Friday. So when you look at it, even like the report says 77% of it. Right now we're sitting at about 86% of our expenditures are in. So bulk of our expenditures are done. We paid our last payroll of the fiscal year. So all of that has concluded. There's always stragglers and stuff like that when it comes to payroll at this end of the year in terms of extra duties. But the first document is the appropriations. And you can see that we have, excuse me, expensed $17.9 million so far, with another $573,000 in encumbered expenses. That number will change. Part of that encumbrance is at the beginning of the year, we encumber certain amounts for bills. And now this is the time of year as the bills get paid, we go in and we liquidate what is left. So that number will come down once we start liquidating some open POs that we haven't expensed. But if you look at that, right now it's saying about $2.2 million is available in terms of what we budgeted. I can tell you that that's not where it's going to end. We have a payment of about $1.5 million we'll be making at the end of this week. That's for our bonds. So that is on that last appropriation. You'll see that there's an amount there. It's a little over $1 million plus $570,000 in interest. So about $1.5 million will be expensed by the end of this week. So that's just like that. Cuts into that $2.2 million. So now we're down to, in that $600,000 range. So you look back at that per sheets, that kind of projection, it's, pretty close to that. We're gonna have some additional expenses that will come up as we close out the books. But, it is going to be, when I looked at it this morning, it is going to be in that just under $20 million range for expenditures. And revenue, as you're looking at it right now, and that's the second page document that I provided.
Before you move on, can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely, it doesn't even have to be quick.
Last page, I think I'm looking at the right thing. You said $1 million payment with $500,000 in interest?
Correct. Yeah, so if you look at it, it's that last page, it's the serial bonds other. It is actually, if you look at it, the budget is 1.13. We've already expensed $110,000 in the bond. By the way, that's the last payment of that bond.
Is that all the interest for all the payments, or is that?
No, that's just when you look at what's left at 1.5, that is for our van that we purchased a year ago to cover the capital project expense.
I don't understand why it's so high relative to the amount of payment.
Because with the van, really the most of it is the interest. So you're basically paying the interest on this ban. When you look at our bond going forward, it's going to be about $900 and some thousand for principal and a couple $100,000 for interest.
It's like a credit card.
Yes, I mean, with the band, you paid more. What we did was with this $1 million, that payment actually was technically lower. So when they gave us their projections as to what we had to do for this current year, these are the numbers they provided. The actual principal payment that we are obligated to pay was more like $700,000. However, we budgeted $1 million, so that remaining $300,000 we're actually putting towards the principal for our bonds that will that has been sold, purchased, and that will actually happen this week as well. So we got about $15 million coming in on the 23rd to cover the band, and we just turn it right around and pay it out to cover the band, and that will be our bonds. So our bond going forward for the next 15 years will be $14.6 million.
And that costs $500,000.
That will cost, it will be, the payment there will be about $1.2 million.
It still seems really high for a school.
We actually got a very great rate when you look at it. Well, you think about it, we're paying $14 million over 15 years. So we're paying, a little over $1 million a year on this payment. So it's a 15-year payment.
Okay.
The bond that just got purchased by Roosevelt was 2.95 was the rate. They were projecting 3.25.
Okay.
So the numbers that they gave me a couple weeks ago, they were thinking about 3.25, actually 2.95.
Thank you.
Fiscal advisors were very excited on those numbers, as was I. We saved about $30,000 a year because of that rate.
Thanks for explaining.
Sure.
On this, the last page, it says transfer to special aid,
Correct.
245,000, and then there's also 30,000.
So you got 215, that's the money that we budgeted for the cafeteria funds.
Mhm.
And the 30,000, I think it's more there for when we need extra money in the special aid, special ed, the F fund. We have not had to touch that specific line in a few years. We kept it that way. Going forward, we probably will have to tap into that based off of last meetings in terms of discussion. So the 215 is what we talked about in terms of the cafeteria. And initially, a couple of years ago, it was about 90,000, and we bumped that up to 215. So that's what those two are.
Thank you.
Other questions on the appropriations?
The board did very well. We only expense.
No New York City reference. The revenue side, you'll see there, again, revenue earned $19.7 million. Two things I'd like to highlight about that right now. Not all of our state aid is in. The state still owes us about $600,000, mainly in building aid. Also, what is not factored into this at this moment in time is what we appropriated for the fund balance of $488,000, or the CRESA money, which is the other federal interest subsidies of $315 million. So a little over $700,000 that we budgeted revenue-wise, we haven't even tapped into yet. So those will wait until the very end. So if we don't have to move the appropriated fund balance over to cover our expenses, we won't, as well as the federal money, even though we built it in as revenue, it's still considered a special aid fund, and it is possible that we can hold that off and utilize that next year to help offset some expenses as well. Questions on the budget report?
Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer?
Treasury reports. I'll just say it's the same old until, we still have a good, healthy amount in our insured cash sweep. We purposely keep our operating funds as low as possible.
Guys, I was just gonna ask about the operating account.
Yeah, so we keep that as low as possible, and typically what we do is for most payrolls or big warrants, we will transfer money out of the insured sweep into the operating account to cover our bills.
Got it.
The sweep is where we gain our interest. So the longer we can keep it in there, That's where we're gonna get our interest, and we move it when we need to move it, usually every 2 weeks.
Now, is the operating account, is that the same as the unassigned fund balance?
Yes, well, between the operating funds and the insured cash sweep,
Okay,
that's where all that money resides.
yeah,
So our unassigned fund balance.
yes,
Are in essence cash,
yes.
would be in those 2 lines as well.
Oh, so both, yeah,
Yes.
you got them over before, but now it's just that for operating account. Okay, got it.
The others that you see in that first set there with the
Yeah.
repair reserve, not repair reserve, but the restricted accounts,
Mm.
they're in separate savings accounts. Those are the specific accounts, EBLAR, tax surgery, things like that. Yeah, those are in separate savings accounts.
Yeah.
Everything else is tied to our operating account.
And do we have the new account that that was passed that week?
We will be, so we will be moving $1 million, or we can move up to $1 million. We'll look to see as everything unfolds, if we go to the max, I think we will be able to.
Okay,
And move $1 million over. We're actually what we're gonna probably do is put that right into a revenue account within the operating accounts.
okay,
Kind of the budget, so, and all of that money will stay, will stay in our insured cash sweep,
got
and
it,
we move it when we have to.
got it.
Otherwise, the treasury report is pretty standard in terms of where we are. We're still pretty healthy and got cash on hand when we need it.
That's great.
Thank you.
I have a suggestion.
Sure.
For the incoming board members, remembering how hard it was for me to understand all these terms, maybe you could do a little glossary, like a half page. What is tax certiorari and what is cash sweep and what is EBLAR?
Is that part of the onboarding documents?
No, but is it in the training that we take?
I'm not sure.
I think that would be a good spot to put it, would be in the onboarding
onboarding.
document that the board members get.
Yeah.
And make it part of the living document, absolutely. Something that-
I'll look into that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we can
Karen.
easily do that, yes.
Every time you use one, just.
Right.
Any other questions? Comments? If not, we'll move right on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, well, it has been 4 whole instructional days since we last convened. And so rather than do a deep dive of all of the things happening, which this is a very busy time of year, I thought I would close the year out by painting a picture of an hour walk through today at the elementary school as emblematic of what makes our school, from my perspective, so special. And I'm going to do it geographically. So at, I want to say 9 o'clock this morning, I started my walk of the elementary school premises where parents pick up and drop off the students. And the occasion at 9 o'clock was the kindergarten graduation car parade. And by the new playground, which was commemorated this year, the entire parking lot was full and all of the cars were decorated with signs commemorating the kindergartners. Each student had a car of a loved one that was driven with balloons and streamers and bubble machines, and lining the entirety from the playground all the way to the road were all of our students and staff, fire trucks, police cars, people holding signs, cowbells, cheering, seeing 5- and 6-year-old kids feeling like rock stars. That's how it started. So then the parade went and drove through Upper Afghanistan on Main Street and whatever else, and made their way back to the school. So that gave me time while they were doing that in that 40 minutes to walk the long haul. And when I moved along the long haul, my next step was into the 4th grade classroom taught by Miss Kramer and Mr. Fenton. They were co-teaching. So very, for a special education teacher and a gen ed teacher to co-teach at the level that they do is impressive. And having come from the classroom myself, I can say that that level of cohesion is something to be prized in our district. And they partner together on math. And I just happened to walk into the classroom, and there were 2 students on either side and a line behind them in this 4th grade classroom. And they were paced out as if it was Wyatt Earp and the OK Corral. And they had pieces of paper on both sides. And Mrs. Kramer called off 1, 2, 3, and one of them picked up a card that had 5 on it. And only the other person could see it. And then the other student picked up one that said 9 on it. And then she would say a number. She would say, okay, the number is 45. And so by using visualization to see what the other number was, you had to extrapolate what the number was that you can't see.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
math duels, like Harry Potter style. The kids were so fired up. It was so cool. So I watched that for a while, and I watched the kids, in that mental mode and competition. And I did another walk down the way. And the next room I went into was the 5th grade. And I started off by going into Miss Angelopoulos' room. And none of the students were in there. They were all in Miss Majorca's room. They were making noise, which is, as you know, is anathema to education. So I looked around her room, and there were dioramas of different math concepts that the students had made, all physical models. And so I was really feeling pleased at the level of math instruction and student embrace going on. And I went into Miss Majorca's room, and it was something out of Storage Wars, the show. Only you could actually comprehend what people were saying. That's the only difference. And the level of collaboration happening in that classroom, they had the 5th grade students all there, but then we had the reading teacher from the middle high school, Laurel Reese, and we had the librarian from the middle high school, Caitlin Patnode, there, handing out brand new hardcover and softcover books to the students. And the students, the level of excitement and enthusiasm in that classroom just permeated the whole room. So I watched that for a while, and I meandered back. And my next stop was to Miss Dam's room. And the students in there were organizing their classroom. And while they were organizing the classroom, they were filling out sheets in anticipation for next year about their character traits and who they are as individuals. And while that was happening, casually a dog was sauntering about the classroom. Cinder, who's just adorable, a lovely face dog, just a sweetie. And the students are all in their mode, and they're perfectly structured, and they're preparing this, and I'm having a conversation with Miss Dam. And at this time, I make my way to the art room, and Miss Villian has the students, and she's giving them the opportunity to decide the next activity that they're going to do, and they can vote on a class if they want to go spend some time on the playground on one of our last days in the art room. The students are all excited. They go on out. They end up voting to go to the playground. I make my way finally to the end, and the students and grandparents and parents start to parade in to the graduation ceremony for the kindergartners. And on the wall are images that students had drawn of themselves, their images of kindergarten graduation. They're all different and adorable. And grandparents are coming and beaming and having crying while they're watching the slideshow. And just having moved to town within a year, I'm seeing people that I've met in a personal context, and they're there, and they don't even have kids. They're just there for kindergarten celebration. They have some connection to a neighbor or a friend, and that all took place in an hour. And that level of cohesion and acceptance and love and knowledge and collaboration between the 2 buildings and across town just really made me proud. So I wanted to share that because we have some exceptional people who care deeply about kids here. And I count the people around this table foremost among those. And we have a situation where 2 of those individuals are going to vacate those seats. And such a legacy, of which Dr. Preston and Mr. Kennelly will leave, surely is deserving of our praise and recognition. And so I've asked Mrs. Angelopoulos to gather something that would in some way consecrate this hallowed ground whereby you both have served and sacrificed.
Thank you very much.
As a token of the year, and more as a reminder of our appreciation for your efforts. Starting with Rick, who served 9 years as a member of the Board of Education, 4 as a president, who served on the BOCES board, who has in many ways led in areas beyond the board in this district, and to Mr. Kennelly, who came aboard during the pre and post of a pandemic, having to lead under that guise, and overseeing in the process a building project, the launching of a strategic plan, the preparation to launch a plan to address the myriad changing standards across our state, and to do so while being fiscally responsible to the taxpayers within this district. So, in honor of the great service that these two gentlemen leave behind, we have in those bags, if you'd care to open them.
Yes, I like the school colors. Wrapping, nice touch.
We have a commemorative certificate acknowledging their extraordinary service.
Love it.
And
Yeah.
a memento in addition in the bag for when the weather is similar to this.
Yeah. Love it.
Fantastic.
You know, I saw one of these today and I said, where can I get one? I really did.
There it is.
Well, they should surely be part of our onboarding process.
Thank you very much.
So certainly,
Hey, he's giving a presentation. Take those hats off.
Totally legal now, totally legal.
well done, Cash. Well done.
There's a card.
Oh, okay, thank you. Can I open that up now? Free tears.
So for all these reasons, I would like to close out my report by thanking you both and by asking you to not be strangers to this facility and to continue to bring your knowledge and levity and good humor to our community and school. And it's been a wonderful 9 months in getting to know each of you. And I'm sure Dr. Catania would say the same of his years in collaboration with the two of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll move to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. Information for the board. There is one item under the executive content. Also wanted to mention under this, I believe, if you haven't checked your email, it's a rather timely email that came from NYSBA. It says what to consider electing your school board president. It's from NYSBA. That's the President's Gavel podcast that you can watch anytime. So
It's 12
also-
minutes long.
is it? That's it?
It's a good 12 minutes.
Is it? I didn't get it.
There's also an article on the onboard too.
Great. So that's mandated reading in preparation for the next meeting. Let's see, linking goals with agenda items. Last opportunity before we close this goal section out.
Good fiscal management. And I think Tim's walk counts as a community engagement thing.
Anyone else? If not, if you think of anything or before you go to bed tonight, you can get that off to Karen. Personnel, Personnel matters, we have a 5A is personnel consent agenda. Recommended action is to approve the following items which are included in the consent agenda. 5B, the teaching assistant resignation. 5C, teaching assistant resignation. 5D, teaching staff maternity leave request. 5E, appointment of department leaders. 5F, creation of a CSEA position. 5G, district data coordinator appointment. And 5H, administrative and management confidential setting of salary and benefits and contracts. They have a motion to accept this personnel, the consent agenda for personnel.
So moved.
Thank you, Martha. Second,
Yes,
thank you, Dan.
I have a request.
Yes,
Can we change the term maternity leave to parental leave?
No, because it's different. I don't get, it's not the same, that's not the same, that's my understanding, is that my wife's access to maternity leave is different than if I was employed. Would I mean, he would be allowed to have.
Really?
Well, I mean, understandably, she's the one that had to get sliced up.
Right.
Right, so there's medical reasons for some of the maternity leave, you get extra weeks. I don't know specifically with this, but no, they're two different things.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's true, the leave is depending on the method of delivery.
yeah,
And,
So,
and that contract states maternity.
Yeah.
The teacher's.
Okay. Thank you.
still sensitive subject for me. Oh, God. That's poor
especially
wife.
after last night.
Yeah, no, my poor wife did all the heavy lifting and is still recovering and could use a year.
Any other discussion on these items? There's a lot here, so. If not, may I have a vote, please?
Has everybody seen it yet?
No, but maybe we got on too early.
I read.
So can you just vote by
Sure.
voting?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 6-0.
May I address a few of these items briefly, Rick?
Certainly can,
Thank you.
please.
So with the passing of that consent agenda, I would just like to shed special light on our new department leaders across the district. Brandon Bosworth, John Fermonti, Dana Damp, Haley Fermonti, Amy Kramer, Angie Carlisto, Buffy Majorca, Amy Gotham, Mel Frazier, Connie Hamaker, Carissa Merrihew, Mary Claire Kapinski, Kara Atkinson, and Sandy Huber. These faculty members are going to have a critical role in driving the instructional success and leadership of the district. So I'm certainly grateful to them and would like to congratulate them in their efforts to lead the department, their respective departments. And I also would like to congratulate Amanda Blacksmith for her appointment as the new data coordinator, which will be a role critical to supporting those department leaders as they work with their teams in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that list that was a really good list. That was encouraging to see those people stepping up into those roles. There's a lot of good names there.
Okay, if nothing else, additional action items. I believe all of these are under consent. Special education, which is 6G. Any questions on the July packet? And if not, we have our second good of the cause.
Nothing.
I was hoping I would get one last good. There's a cause before we take on.
With that said, we will enter into the adjournment phase of the meeting. Next meeting date and location is in fact July 6th at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. That's the board reorganizational meeting. Are there any old agenda topics, items? Or new topics? If not, we will be going into executive session for the purpose of discussing superintendent's evaluation. The recommended action is motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing the superintendent's evaluation. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Joan.
Second.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? If not, we're in executive session. We will be coming back out and voting. So I'm anticipating 5-10 minutes of your time.
Tell Karen.
You'll ask her.
While they're
nicely.
lighting.
You'll ask her nicely.
Of course I will.
Thanks, Dave.
You didn't say please.